it is a very exciting time for the film industry. There's lots of momentum happening in lots of different places across the state. I am going to, cover what Washington Filmworks is doing right now, which is a whole heck of a lot. But as I think many of you remember or might recall, our top priorities last year were really about raising money. So we have this very unique funding mechanism. And it's because we had the same set of contributors for 15 years, we had to go, when you go from $3.5 million to $15 million a year, you actually have to start, making new relationships. So that has been very fun. We raised about half of the 15 last year. We were able to start raising money in July, and then we started again this year. So as we move into this year, I think we're sitting somewhere between $21–22 million. We're quite confident after all the work we've done on recruiting those new folks that we're going to hit that 15 this year. With that being said, it is we are still accepting money. So if you have a Washington-based business and want to contribute your business and occupation tax to Washington Filmworks and get a dollar for dollar credit in return, please consider that, because we would love to have you as part of that contribution family. The other part that has been a huge priority for us is, with all of these new programs, our little tiny staff of 4 people was not enough to do all this incredible work that we get to do. So we spent some time hiring some staff this year. And so we are going to take, right in the middle of this presentation, I'm going to show you a slide and just tell you about them and what they do. I wish that we were in person so you could meet them as well, but all good things in time. So as we came into this year and through the last half of last year, we started building new programs. Tonight is about really getting into the nitty-gritty of very specifically our funding programs. But also, I wish that you had the opportunity to hear what I'm hearing from elected officials, which is they are like, you know what, go out, knock this out of the park, do a fantastic job, spend the money, and come back for more. And I said, okay, done. We're going to do that. But along the way, what I think we have to do more of is tell our story. And so one of the first things that we did as we came out of the session was make a new trailer. We hadn't made a new trailer in so long. And as you can imagine, with 132 projects under our belts, there was a lot to choose from. And what we love about it is, while of course it tells a story about Washington Filmworks, more than that, it really tells the story of this industry. And on the deep, dark days at Washington Filmworks, when it gets a little tough, this is what we turn to, and this is what keeps us motivated. So we just wanted to start there and share that with you before we jump into the nitty-gritty. right. It's really such a joy to share that. You know, we do a lot of public speaking to chambers of commerce and, you know, and different elected officials and, you know, economic development councils. And it's just always such a joy to share with them all the incredible things that this industry does. So for those of you that are just popping in, please do take a second and say hello in the chat. We'd love to know who you are, what you do, and where you're from. We're really curious to see if we're getting some statewide reach. So please do that. So and if you don't know me and you just popped in, my name is Amy Lillard. I'm the Executive Director of Washington Filmworks. So, all right, moving on. So thank you for your patience is the way that I want to start as we jump into giving an overview of these two new funding programs. You know, I also am going to encourage you to get back and sit back and be comfortable. You're lucky because you're in the virtual world. You can probably be sitting on your couch or something, but it's a lot of information. And so be aware of that, make yourself comfortable. And I'm just gonna jump in on this one. So I want to start by just refreshing everyone about what the funding programs, what production incentive programs are about. First of all, incentive programs across the United States and globally are actually a return on investment in what you spend in the jurisdiction that you're in. And so if you are somewhere, the way that you qualify for that money in Washington State is by hiring local people, and also so that's cast and crew, and working with local businesses. So it's not as if when you get approved, we give you a big check. You actually have to invest in the economy by hiring local people and working with local businesses. What's key to our funding programs is the type of project that you are making will directly lead to the percentage return that you get on that qualified spend. That is generally how all production incentives work across the country and other places, but it's something to remember. And we are going to chat about the different levels of those percentages on projects and how you get there. Spending thresholds. These spending thresholds, which are $150,000 for commercials, $300,000 per episode for episodics, and $500,000 for feature films, are important for two very specific reasons. One is it is how both funding programs use them as a tool. Most notably, it is how, if you hit those spending thresholds, it is how you are able to qualify for what we are calling enhanced incentives. So enhanced incentives are if you meet certain criteria, then you can qualify for additional funding. We're going to deep dive on that in the second half of this presentation. And then funding assistance happens after wrap. So once you wrap production is when you give our team, which is now led by a new team member whose name is Kenneth Hagan. I think he's probably here somewhere on the chat, but he and his team will be literally looking at every single piece of paper that the accounting team collects during production. So those are payroll reports and receipts on everything, right? Because we have to prove to the state that the money was spent here in Washington. So again, funding assistance is cash, and you get it after production. The other thing that you should know, and maybe I should repeat this twice, no matter what funding program you are participating in, and the two funding programs again are the production incentive program, which is aimed at getting those bigger budget productions in, and then the small budget production initiative, which is to support our local emerging filmmakers. Both of those programs have that significant reporting practices. It is not our fault. It is the Department of Commerce and the legislature. We can thank them. Don't hate us, but it's very laborious. And I know that our team is intending to put some some things that can help you along the way, especially if you're in that small budget and you're an emerging filmmaker, to help you weave through all that paperwork. All right, next slide. All right. This is a really, I know it looks overwhelming and it has a lot of words, but I want to thank Jess, our new communications person, for creating this slide, because I think it does it gives you a visual on the different programs and what is similar and what is different. So under the production incentive program, again, those are those bigger projects. The types of content that qualify are commercials that are filming in rural Washington. So commercials in rural are now eligible, episodic series and feature films. On the small budget production side, this is kind of exciting if you're a local Washingtonian, most every kind of content does. This is new. This is a direct response from what we heard from you. You could be a documentary filmmaker. You could be an animator. You could be doing a short film or a feature. So we're really excited about this. And again, just wanted to share back with you that this is something that we heard you wanted, and we responded to it with the last bill. Here come those minimum qualifying spends for the program. So again, you're going to see those thresholds in the incentive program, which is the $150 for commercials, $300 for episodics, and $500 for features. On the other side, for small budgets, it's $20,000. So if you are making a project for $20,000, you now qualify or can qualify for funding assistance through this program. The maximum spend on this program for small budgets is $1 million. So we're looking at that filmmaker that is really making the first, maybe second project, who is trying to level up their game. And that's the budget threshold for that program. So as I said in the introductory slide, their incentives are all based on that return on what you invest spending money in the economy. Commercials in Washington state are eligible for a 40% return on what you spend. The episodic series, if you're making 6 or more, is 35%. Episodics less than 6 episodes, as well as features, are still at that 30% level. And the small budget production initiative across the board, it is 30% for any type of project. You'll see, as I suggested also previously, these enhanced incentives, those additional dollars if you're hitting certain criteria. These are the minimum thresholds that you have to meet to qualify for them. So we understand that small budget might be, a very difficult threshold to hit, a $500,000 feature perhaps, but this is what's in the law. We can't walk around it. We tried many ways, but it didn't work. So we were kind of stuck with that. But again, you can still qualify. Even if you don't hit those minimum thresholds in the small budget section, you can still qualify for that 30% return. And then non-resident labor. So if in both programs across the board, if you hit those minimum in-state spending thresholds and qualify for the program, you can qualify for return on non-resident labor. So meaning the wages and the benefits, if you're paying them in the standard program or the small budget program, you can get that 15% return on their wages and benefits. The key to this is always remembering that you have to have 85% Washington workforce. That means you can think of workforce as basically everyone who works on set, with the exception of extras. I mean, that's kind of the easy way to think of it. And finally, the application window for the bigger budget productions that come through in the production incentive program, that will be rolling. So as soon as we get a production incentive program application, we will go ahead and process that and get back to them. The board looks at all of the applications and approves them. On the other side, because we anticipate and expect a lot of enthusiasm for the small budget program, we are looking at those applications quarterly. All right, moving on. All right, what's new? So not a lot has changed in the production incentive program, that bigger budget for that bigger budget stuff. I mean, the fact that we have lots more money is a big change, but we wanted to bring to your attention a couple of things in this category. One of the highlights is that the enhanced incentives, and it's so funny, I feel like I'm teasing everyone because the enhanced incentives I'm going to talk about at the end, and I keep talking about them and, pinpointing them in the conversation. However, under the production incentive program, you will be eligible for those enhanced incentives. It's pretty exciting too that we're bringing commercials back into the fold. We have not funded a commercial since 2015. We think it's a wonderful opportunity to, push some really great work out into some of the most magical, amazing communities in Washington State, which would be 30 out of 39 counties are actually rural in Washington. So lots of land to consider and lots of locations to consider. Also, we are returning to our normal course of business, meaning when we had such a little fund to work with, what we were offering was when the application window opened in the top of the year, we would allow any project that was fully funded to apply at the front end. We are going back to what is more normal for most incentive programs, which is you can apply, and this is for the production incentive program. I'm just reminding you of that. We're talking about that program right now, not necessarily a small budget. We'll talk about that next. You can apply 120 days. You have to go into production 120 days from the approval by the board, and you can apply 60 days, Julie? Oh, I'm forgetting. Julie's going to get back to me on that one. We wait with bated breath.
Unmuting. I think it's 30 days.
We're going to check on that. It's embarrassing because I actually wrote the guidelines and criteria, but so we'll get back to that for sure. The next thing I wanted to mention is that the wages for non-resident labor have become much more competitive within the larger marketplace of United States incentives. In the previous iteration of the program, we would, if a non-resident was coming in and making more than $50,000, none of their wages would qualify for incentive dollars or return on their wages. In this new program, even if your non-resident worker goes over the $50,000 mark, then their wages up to 50% will be eligible for funding assistance, which is huge. It makes us much more competitive. And if you are doing an episodic, that is true for every episode, not just the first one or the first 50,000. And significant purchases. Julie Damon is going to, when she pops on at the very end, is going to tell us about significant purchases. Unless you want to do it now, Julie, totally up to you. No? Okay. So basically what we did is we looked at other states. What we know is, like, as technology has evolved, productions are often making significant purchases, whether those are drives, whether that might be a camera, whether there are, like, we just had something come up about iPhones on a set for the actors. So we did some research. We wanted to make sure we were competitive in the market, and there's lots more information about what qualifies and what doesn't qualify. So, all right, moving right along. Okay. Lots of people, I'm sure, are here because of the Small Budget Production Initiative. As I said, it's something we are all at Filmworks very excited about and very happy to bring to this market. So what you're seeing on this slide is that this is kind of, what we call the basics of the program. So all of the projects must be creatively driven by Washington filmmakers, and you must have 2 of the following 4 positions as Washington residents, and that's writer, director, producer, lead actor. So 2 of the 4 of those must be Washington residents. If you happen to be one of those folks that is, say, a director producer, that counts as 1. You don't get to count as 2 people. So you would need another actor, writer. You'd have to have those 2 on board, or one of one of them. So sorry if I confused you. I confused myself. So, so again, if you're a lead actor and a director, that's 1 person, of the 2. If you're the producer director, that counts as 1 too. I hope that's clear. If not, we can clear it up after this presentation. Budget thresholds for this program, again, are between 20,000 and 1 million. Most content is eligible. And this is probably the most exciting part, which is we know how hard it is to fundraise for projects. And so in an effort to help those filmmakers that we work with and work for, is Washington Filmworks can be the first money in. You can come to our program and apply for the program without having any money in the bank or not having anything fundraised. And so the goal, I saw claps. The goal being that you spend the next 6 months and you're able to go to potential funders and say, look, Washington Filmworks, which does economic development in film, they believe in me, they believe in my project, and they put money in for me. So that is the idea. In addition to that, we've gotten many questions in this program about health and retirement benefits. In the production incentive program, that continues to be a requirement. We're very proud of the fact that we are the incentive in the country that requires health and retirement benefits for the bigger budget stuff. In this program, we always would love it if you can provide those benefits. We would like to see as many people as possible supporting benefits for our local workers. It is not required by law in this program. And then finally, those wages for non-resident labor also apply here to the Small Budget Production Initiative as well. Okay, moving on. All right. So we talked about the basics. These are things that we wanted to bring to your attention before you read we know you're going to read the 34-page guidelines and criteria for this program. I'm sure you're going to do that. But so things that we want you to know is that the applicant of record in this program is a Washington State producer or director. Money, again, comes after. So you will get approved. We will put money aside for you. You prove that you spent the money in state, and then we give you money. So the other thing that is slightly different as compared to the production incentive program is my mom just left. She's texting me and distracting me. By the way, bye, Mom. There's one completion package. In the other program, the production incentive program, it is oftentimes they'll give us a production completion package and a post package. In this program, it is one, and you have a year from the last day of principal photography to give us that paperwork. And then finally, the intention of this program is that you make an incredible project and you get it out into the world, and it leads to bigger opportunities for you. And so you may be the applicant, you may be funded through this program once. We call it the one and done. If you apply and say you aren't able to necessarily get the fundraising done, you can reapply in a different cycle. But if you are funded through this program, it is one and done. All right, moving on. This is the break in the middle. So as I suggested early on in this conversation, I get the great pleasure of, being the person who talks a lot. And I just wanted to highlight some of our new faces at Filmworks who are going to help us do this work. Audra is here as our Director of Workforce Development. She has about 10 years of history in the workforce space, and she also has a film degree. So it's like this perfect match for us. And she's kind of cool, which is what we love too. But she is, the law that passed last year allows us to spend $500,000 this year, next, and $700,000 after that a year on workforce development. And so that's what Audra's heading up. The Emerge program is also under her umbrella, and that is that education and mentorship program that we will be launching. Kenneth Hagan is a returning Washington Filmworks person. We had him on board working with Julie previously 8 years ago. And again, I mentioned this earlier, but Ken is going to be doing those completion packages with his team and helping us with the reporting practices. I mean, one of the things that we have to think about in more meaningful ways now is how we're telling our story, and what are the metrics and the things that we are doing so that we can go back and get additional funding. But there's significant reporting practices for you as someone who is getting funding, but we also have to report that to many different legislative bodies. And finally, Jess Schwab, she is our communications person. She's a fantastic photographer, and I'm thinking in the very near future, you're going to be seeing a lot of her work. I mean, she's just got a special gift in so many ways, and is like killing it on social media. I mean, she's been here a short amount of time, and like all these new people are part of our family. So I want to welcome them all. I'm looking forward to when we can be in your community so that you can meet them too. They join on our staff, Vicki Berglund Davenport, who runs our film office. Julie Borden, who is helping us with some administrative things. And who am I missing? Kaylee Oakes, who is the best. She tells me where to be and what to do. It's the best. But she does all of our events and board interactions and just makes things happen behind the scenes at Filmworks. And then of course, Julie Damon, my longtime partner for 13 years, and our Director of Operations and Finance. Did I miss anyone, Julie? No? Sherry Wyatt. Sorry, Sherry. Sherry Wyatt is our Director of Rural Economic Development. She's working in communities to facilitate, basically help those communities get film ready and create opportunities for that rural filming. Okay. Okay, at long last, the enhanced incentives. So again, these are additional dollars that you can qualify for. I want to start by saying that this is not a program that is independent. You must qualify for either the production incentive program or the small budget production program. So know that, but you can qualify for additional dollars if you meet certain criteria. We have 2 enhanced incentives. One is if you are filming in a rural community, and that's 30 out of 39 counties, or if you are telling the story of a historically underrepresented community. And so, we take great pride in the fact that we're doing this. No state is doing this, this enhanced incentive where we are trying to lift up new stories and voices and people. And we're delighted to be the first. As a matter of fact, we've had 6 different states come to us and ask us to pilot this program so that they can adopt it too. It's part of our deep commitment to equity at Washington Filmworks, and we're thrilled to be doing it. The spending thresholds, I keep talking about them, but unless you hit those thresholds, you are not eligible for enhanced incentives. And in the event that you happen to qualify for 2, you are filming in a rural community and telling the story about an immigrant worker who builds the new Amazon, right? You would not qualify for 10% in rural and 10% for underrepresented communities. You would qualify for a total of 10%. And we have, in the bill that passed, the legislature has challenged us and said, look, we want to see 20% of the funding go towards these 2 things, which is filming in rural communities and activity in activity in rural communities, as well as telling the stories of underrepresented communities. And so these enhanced incentives are, first of all, first of their kind and in the country, as I said, and then also the most lucrative. I mean, they were designed so that to really drive the work here and really move us towards these 2 20% goals. All right, moving on. All right, so how do you qualify for these enhanced incentives? The first thing that you must do is declare, it's a very dramatic word, declare where you're going to film in your application. So when you apply for either of those 2 programs, then you must put where you're going to film, the county that you're going to film in your application. You must spend 50% of your filming days in Washington State in that rural county. And we're not talking about second unit, we're talking about, the full production. So, and then in addition to that, and this is something that Washington Filmworks will help negotiate with the different jurisdictions and the folks that are our clients at Washington Filmworks, but the production must provide some marketing collateral for the jurisdiction where they're filming. That could be some behind the scenes footage, that can be, a VIP visit to set, it could be a whole variety of things. I'm having flashbacks, I think, a little bit to my time out of New York and LA where I was marketing film, but it's really about what is the size and scope of each project, what is the opportunity, and what are the things that the production needs to contend with also. So it'll be something that we negotiate after approval, but has to be delivered prior to us giving any funding assistance out. And finally, if you can hit all of those marks, you get a 10% return on all of your qualified spend in Washington. So it's not just the spend that you have in the rural county. It can then be, let's say you go back and do the other half of your project in Seattle or Spokane. All of your spending in Seattle or Spokane would be eligible for that additional 10% as well. Again, the most marketable, I would say, enhanced incentive in the country. I just want to thank Sherry Wyatt, who helped do a deep dive on the rural incentives across the states and really helped us craft this so that it was, it was designed to work, to really drive work into the rural county. All right, moving on. So this enhanced incentive for telling the story of underrepresented communities, when you apply for the incentive, for this enhanced incentive, you will be asked to answer 2 questions in the application process. What you're seeing here is the definition that we use at Washington Filmworks to talk about what is an underrepresented community. I will tell you the definition actually has 2 more paragraphs underneath it, but we couldn't fit it on the slide. So you'll be introduced to that full definition if you want to do a deep dive into potentially qualifying for this incentive. So you'll be asked to answer those 2 questions in the application process. Moving on. Before we open it up for questions, I wanted to chat about, if you've heard me talk about this moment in time and where we are at, we consider this to be a proof of concept. We really want to knock it out of the park and go back for more. And there seems to be support, as the state is talking a lot about the creative economy, we are constantly in elected officials' faces saying, film is the way to support the creative economy. It's like, if you go to a film set, it is a microcosm of the creative economy. And if we have a big incentive, it's year-round family wage jobs, right? Here's the problem. The incentive is only one part of film industry success. We know that we bring in a tiny amount of work as compared to all the work that's happening in Washington state. Nobody, not any of our partners, not anybody, like not us, nobody is able to tell that story and, by that data, like proving to them how important film is to the economy, because nobody has the data. So Vicki Berglund Davenport came on board and she's like, why aren't we collecting that data? And we're like, well, what do you think we should do? So we came up with a new tool called List Your Project. It is, it's a simple form. It will be on our website. We're beta testing it now with some film folks, and it's intended to tell our story better, right? It's not just about the incentive, but let's tell the story about all of the projects that are filming. Not only that, but if we know what you're doing, we know when it's busy, and we can help navigate some of those things in the community. The other thing we're trying to do is we have a production directory, and you can list yourself for free in it. You control your listing. You have to have 1 credit. Here's the thing. We know that in our previous iteration of this program, we were able to fund like maybe 3, maybe 4 projects a year. In this new iteration, it's more like 10 to 12. It's a lot more work. We need a lot more people, which is why we're so excited about Audra and her work. But we need to have like a benchmark so that when we go back in 3 years, we can show the exponential growth in this industry. I know we're not joiners. But we need you to join this. Because first of all, when we get all of those calls in the film office and about incentives, that's where we send people to find crew. That's where we send people. We can't recommend anyone. So we need you to be in there. So, and finally, before we go to the question section, we're hiring. As you can tell, you saw lots of new faces today on the slide. We are currently hiring readers to help us evaluate those projects that qualify or believe they qualify for the enhanced incentive for telling the story of historically underrepresented communities. We're hiring readers. We've opened that application window. You can find the job description on our website under work for WF or something like that. Not hard to spell, under the About Us section. And we are also hiring some of Ken's team for the folks that are going to help facilitate the reviews under his umbrella. And we're hiring a financial controller. So we'd love to see, we'd love to expand our team. And, you don't have to live in Seattle. You have to live in Washington State. Kaylee lives in Spokane. Audra lives in Tacoma. Like we actually like the idea of having people all over the state. So someone else we just hired that we're not talking about yet lives in Spokane. So, if you live in Washington and you're interested in any of those positions, please take some time and take a look at them. Okay, I am done talking and very happy to answer questions. And Julie, please pop on to help with the talking. Oh yeah, there's this too. We're opening the application window at long last. So May 1st, this production incentive program will open. That is the bigger budget production stuff. Small budget production, as we have said many times, that they are being reviewed and voted on quarterly. And so we will look at them with the board in June, but the window to apply is May 15th through June 1st. Because it's such a new program, our intention is when we make the official announcement and broadcast this more widely than this, this group here, we will also have information sessions so that as you, not like me talking at you like I am right now, I'm so sorry, but just us being present and answering your questions about the application, about the program, more of a back and forth. So we're as we announce and come out of the gate with these 2 new funding programs, we will be present for you via this kind of environment where we can have discussions about what questions you have.